Guys, the Dogs of War YouTube channel. Today we have unboxing of the Valley.
Take two.
Is the first of the Sand cycle.
Yep.
And today we have Angelo, Tree, the regulars, and me. And start it off, Angelo.
I'm just impressed that Jesus knew what pack we were doing.
I know.
Well, we already done it once, so he remembers from the last time.
Okay.
All right, so the first card, we're going to start with the runner side today for this video, is going to be Clot. So the card that everybody's been talking about. Clot's a 2-cost, 1 MU, 2 influence virus program, and it says the Corp cannot score an agenda on the same turn he or she installed it. Trash Clot if the Corp purges counters. So I think this is fairly self-explanatory. It takes fast advance and punches it in the face over and over again.
I don't think anybody will play it.
So the more I've thought about Clot since we first started talking about it, we did the first take of this video. I was talking with Jesus about this earlier too. Clot's very much going to be a card that you're only going to play if you're already probably playing Clone Chip. Because the timing window that exists for Clot to actually be effective, you'll never be able to play it out of your hand, and you really don't want to play it and install it because then they just purge and they fast advance the next turn anyways. So what you can do though is you can install your first Clot, have a Clone Chip in play, they're going to have to purge that Clot off, it goes to your discard pile, now they're stuck because now you're just going to bring it right back out. And I think that's where the real power of Clot comes in.
Yeah, preferably after they've advanced it once, or after they've installed it.
Yep. Install advance and then spring it, because you can't interrupt the window if it's on top of a Sand after the second advancement token. So I think any deck that can easily get it out of their graveyard, or if you're playing Shaper and you can go tutor for it with an SMC, it'll see play. Otherwise, I think you end up running Traffic Jam if you're worried about fast advance.
And do you even really play this card against if you're not playing against MBN? Like, if it's in your deck?
I think so, because there are some factions that have 1/2s, for example.
Yeah, you have my favorite agenda, Hostile Takeover. You also have the Clone, Clone Retirement?
Clone Retirement.
But, I mean, for the most part, do you think it's going to be worth your time and investment in this card to...
Well, the hard part is do you know your opponent's deck well enough to know they're not running Sand, for example, or they're not running Bodic Labor? And if you can say, yes, you know these things, then sure, you'll pitch it to your graveyard, you'll never install it, and you're done. I mean, but you have to have it in your deck just in case you run into those matchups. But if they are playing those things, you don't know if they are, I think you do install it. And I think you can even gain knowledge of your opponent's deck at that point, because if they purge this off the board after you've installed it just blind, that probably tells you they're doing some type of fast advance trick that you should probably pay attention to.
I guess if the worst thing you get out of it is the Corp skips a turn by by getting rid of it, you're not doing so bad.
Nope.
Yeah. The only, if there is a drawback for this, will be against the Jinteki side advance. Because now you're, more trickier with them,
Yeah, they're not scoring agendas the turn they put them out anyway.
Yeah, so how do you play around this? Well, you install, and you advance the next turn, which is fairly common, right? I mean, a lot of factions that don't have 2/3s or don't have 1/2s, they install, advance, and then they pass the turn, and then they have to advance the rest of the way the next turn anyway. So Clot does nothing against those things.
Yep.
I mean, this is purely a counter for the Sands
and
the Biotic Labors. And Trick of Light, I mean, you can install Trick of Light that stops that too. So, But in that case, you actually have to use this after they've installed before they play the Trick of Light, because there's no window to then bring this out and prevent them from scoring the agenda.
Unless they need a third counter on it.
Unless they need another counter, yes.
Yeah.
So.
But I think it's good.
Up next, we have Page Piper. This is a 0-cost Anarch resource. It's a connection. 2 influence cost. The first time you install a card each turn, including Page Piper, you may search your stack for any number of copies of that card and add them to your heap. Shuffle your stack. This card's amazing. It gets rid of all of the duplicates out of your deck of cards you don't want to see more than one of, like Page Piper, your Katie Joneses, some of your hardwares. Your consoles, especially. I mean, it's just it's fantastic for free.
It's especially good for combo decks.
It's very good for combo decks. That's what I was going to say.
The biggest drawback is that if the Corp managed to trash those stuff that you already have taken out of your deck, then you're SOL.
Oh, you'll have to have some way to get it back.
Yeah.
You generally don't want to use her if you're playing like Tag Me, for example, because a lot of the things that you put 3 of in a deck are things like resources or hardware cards that you desperately need to see very early in the game, so you put 3 copies in. So in that case, you really don't want to be playing Tag Me, because you don't want those things to be trash after you throw them out of your deck.
Right.
I've actually used her. We were talking about this earlier, and she does a hell of a lot of work. I think you're going to see her most played right now in Valencia. Valencia has probably been accepted right now as the biggest combo Anarch or runner in the game, for that matter, because of her 50-card deck size. So you can fit a lot of those extra pieces in very easily, and Paige makes it so easy to play with her now.
This is not a May.
Yeah, it's a May.
You
may search your stack.
Okay, never mind.
Yeah.
So she's very, very good. I like her a lot. The 2 influence is good because it means that she's a little expensive to splash over, but she's not prohibitively expensive if you want to bring her into another faction.
If you're going into criminal, you only need one because you can hostage her out.
Yeah. So I got another criminal. It's adjusted Anarch criminal.
Not blue.
Adjusted chronotype. It's 3 costs, 2 influence, resource genetics. First time you lose a click each turn, gain a click. It's a card that will help you take away the disadvantages of other cards. The bad things about the drawback. It's a good card.
Yeah.
I like it's a Jinteki on the art.
Yeah. So I tried out the Wombo combo today, which everybody knows about now. It's a 5-card combo using this with Wild Side, Hard at Work, the Gene Shop, and that type of stuff. It's interesting. It's prohibitively expensive from being good, but
it feels slow to set up. I think the better way to use this might be Starlight
Crusade,
yes,
Starlight Funding, Crusade Funding, whatever
yes,
it is.
The one that says you lose a click at the start of your turn, but you don't pay any extra clicks for double events. Yep. Between that and like you said, Hard at Work, I think this card will definitely see a bunch of play. People just trying to use those. Wild Side, free cards is never bad.
And it's a card that will last throughout the cycle, meaning the more it gets better and better and better.
Yeah, it's a combo card, which is what Anarchs are known for now. It's very expensive.
Yes.
Earthrise is cheaper than using this with Wild Side. And the Bombo combo is a 15 credit combo. It takes 5 cards to set up, which means you're taking 8 turns to make money off it. It's pretty rough.
I think it's going to be easier just to do, to pick one or two.
It is.
And do something similar rather than trying to go for crazy combo. But I think it'll definitely see some play.
It's a good card.
Like you said, at being unique and at 2 influence, you probably only need to run like 1 copy, maybe 2.
Yeah, and
if it's something you're basing your deck around, you probably run 2. Otherwise, you just run 1.
Yeah, or you run 3 and run Page.
Yeah.
I mean, she'll go get the other 2 and throw them away for you, which is what I was doing today. So it was pretty interesting.
All right.
Next up is Spike. Spike is the first criminal card. This is a 1 cost, 1 MU Icebreaker. It is a Fractor, a Cloud Breaker, and it is 0 strength and 2 influence. It has the typical Cloud Breaker text of if you have at least 2 link, the memory cost of Spike is 0, even if it is not installed. Then it says Spike has +1 strength for each installed Icebreaker, and you can trash it to break up the 3 barrier subroutines. So this is the first of 3. We're going to get 1 for every single piece of ice. We've seen that so far. So it's Crowbar, and I can't...
Oh, they actually showed
they've been spoiled. So Crowbar is the barrier one, and I cannot remember the Codegate one to save my life, but it's Crowbar, Spike, and one other. And
this one's the barrier one.
Oh, sorry. Crowbar's the sentry one. I apologize. So these go very well with the new runner that's coming out in this cycle, too.
Again, rumored. We haven't seen it for sure.
Sure. Yeah, but if his ability is correct, he draws a card every time you trash a card, so...
Yeah, or when you use a trash ability specifically.
Yeah. So that's pretty good. These cards are obviously meant to be synergized together. You install a bunch of them, and they all give each other strength, and then they don't cost any MU to use because they are all free, presumably, if you have some type of Underworld contacts or something installed to give you 1 extra link. And there you go. So have at it. Have some free icebreakers.
They're dirt cheap to play.
You could recur them maybe if you really cared to. But the cool thing is they synergize really well with your regular breakers that are in play because they're not using up MU. And these can be like those big, I need to make a run, I don't have enough credits, but oh crap, I can break 3 barrier subroutines that, I have 8 strength because I have 8 breakers in play. And I think that's kind of cool.
I don't see them to be like your main breakers, but especially if you have the 2 links, having as extra breakers. Now I could have...
Not going to hurt anything.
Yeah, I could have my 3 regular breakers, and then these big ones for when I deal against big eyes, or a surprise or whatever.
Yeah. Again, I don't think this will be something you'll see played in a lot of, splash into a lot of decks, but I think there'll be a deck that's built around these, assuming that they all come out.
My curiosity is, since that runner's going to be all about trashing, if there's going to be new cards to bring stuff from the heap, more...
That'd be interesting because that's really not been a criminal thing. It's always been an Anarch thing. So if they put or Shaper to some extent.
So you remember they've been putting ghetto versions of cards into other factions. So I wonder if they're going to be a clone chip.
And the one I'm really curious on, are all of them blue? Or are you going to see...
Yeah, maybe they'll be spread out of a faction. But for a runner who's going to use them, I hope they're all blue because
and also
really
the big thing here, barrier is not typically a blue thing to break.
Yeah.
Barrier is typically the Shaper thing to break.
Unless you talk about Corroder.
Yeah.
And Morningstar.
Okay, so maybe it's actually...
Maybe it's Anarch, yeah. Code Gates are barrier.
I always go to Battering Ram.
Oh, okay. See, I go to Shaper for Code Gates because they have Accordion Blade and Zoo and stuff like that.
Yeah, you're probably right on that. All right, up next we have Enhanced Vision. This is part 2 of our genetics suite in this pack. It's a 1-cost resource. It's unique. It is a genetics resource. It's 3 influence to splash, and says the first time you make a successful run each turn, the corp reveals 1 card at random from HQ. So anytime you make, or the first time you make any run, doesn't matter what kind of run, it can be your security testing run, it can be a run on a remote server, they're going to reveal 1 card at random from HQ.
Yep. And this is a typical criminal. I mean, this is criminals all about how many effects can I trigger off one run, and here's another one. It is interesting, though, that it's 3 influence, though, because that generally tells you that they don't want you really running it outside of criminal, which makes you wonder why. Because right now, there's no cards that really trigger off of a card being revealed from hand. So
here's my counter to that. That may be something you don't like. That might be the fact that it's unique means it has to have a higher influence cost, because you can then choose to splash one of these rather than splashing multiples. Maybe that's what they intend.
That could be.
But I do agree. Usually, the higher influence cost means it's more to be kept within its own faction. And interestingly enough, I think we talked about this on our last attempt at this review. That if you make a run on HQ with this card installed as your first run, you will actually get the card revealed at random before you access.
Yep. So at least you would know if there's a chance to pull an agenda.
Yeah, you'll either get 2 different cards, one of which you actually get to access, or you'll reveal and then access the same card.
Or too bad if they reveal a snare and you go, oh my god, this is going to be bad.
Is it before you commit to hitting?
No, once you're at a successful run, is when it happens.
So
you still have to access.
Okay.
Actually, at that point, you still, if you're on like an account siphon run as an example, you could have the option to choose whether or not to do that text.
But my question is, like you said, if I pull a snare, oh shit!
No, you can't. No,
once you're there, you're at a successful run, you're either accessing or using a substitute effect.
Yeah.
All right.
Gene conducting shop. Conditioning shop. 2 cost location, 1 influence shaper. Genetics also trigger the second time each turn. Each turn their trigger condition is met.
Yeah.
Again, another card is going to get better with get more genetics. I think it's going to be good.
This is going to be the thing. The fact that it's like you said, 1 influence means it's meant to be spread out throughout all the factions. So you'll be getting to either reveal multiple cards from HQ on multiple runs. If you have Hard at Work and Starlight and Wild Side, you'll be able to gain the clicks back from both of them.
And this is as good as it's weird that they gave it to Shapers. I guess Shaper was the first faction to get multiple access.
Do you know off the top of your head if Quanju PT is unique or not?
Quanju PT, I believe. I don't know if it's unique.
Because if it's not, there'd be an interesting combo using this with Chronotype and Quanju PT to avoid 2 tags. I mean, you could account siphon for free, and that's huge, actually, because the biggest downside to account siphon is having to clear the tags at the end of it.
Yeah.
But, I mean, if you ran 2 Quanju PTs and they're not unique, you lose the 2 clicks, you gain them right back because of this with Chronotype.
Yeah.
And now you're sitting at 4 clicks, and the first 2 tags I take, I completely avoid. That's pretty good.
It's not a bad use for Quanju PT anyway with the Chronotype.
Yep. So
just saying.
I'm gonna have to look into that.
Just saying, every turn, I'm not going to take a tag this turn.
Well, it's till it goes to your next turn, so it's even on the corpse turn too. So they can't C-source you, they can't do anything because you just avoid the tag. So
they have you like at mid-seasons.
Yeah, they have to, and you still dodge 2 of them. It's like having +2 link.
I'm saying even if it is unique, if it's unique, you only get 1. It's still you're dodging a tag every turn. That's not bad.
Would that work with John's Mercenary too?
Yes.
Yep.
Because you do not take the first tag with Quanju PT, but you lose a click to do it is the problem. So next up, Synthetic Blood. This is another genetics. This is unique. Shaper. It's a resource like normal. It's 2 influence, and it says the first time you take damage each turn, draw 1 card. Or if you have Gene Shop, the first 2 times you take damage each turn, draw 1 card. Not a lot to be said about this. I mean, this is good if you're going to play it to help offset like net damage and stuff like that. I think is the best way to probably play with it. It seems like it's more of a counter towards that kind of style play versus neat damage is really not going to save you. Look at this, it's like a traffic accident maybe or something like that's hitting you. So I think it's like mostly a net damage play, and like we talked about in the last take on this, it's better than Net Filter or whatever it is, Net Shield, the one that you spend 3 credits to prevent a net damage. Feedback filter, yeah. So I mean, this is better. I mean,
well, it's different because you're not actually preventing the damage. You're still digging through your deck,
sure.
Which is actually what like the Jinteki Little Cuts deck wants you to do. They want to burn you down to no cards left in deck.
That's true.
Because at that point you can't draw anymore. But this is preventing the ill effect of the damage.
Yeah. The only thing is the E3 feedback is hard to get rid of as a corp than this.
The feedback filter.
The feedback filter, yeah.
The nice thing about this is most Shaper decks I've noticed lately have been running at least one Levy. So, in some way, you can use that net damage with this to even help you just draw cards. Like, I'm going to make a run, and I really don't care if you strip something out of my hand, because I'm just going to draw another card in, which is what I want to do in the first place, and hopefully it's just not your Levy that gets pulled, but, you know, you'll have same old thing or whatever, so... I mean, it's interesting.
Yeah, I think this is probably the worst of the genetics cards in the pack, which the fact that it prevents, or that it negates the effect of small damage is still pretty good. All right, up next we got Traffic Jam. This is a neutral card. It is an event. It's a current, and it costs 2 credits. It's got the standard current text that is, this card is not trashed until another current is played and her agenda is scored. The advancement requirement of each agenda is increased by 1 for each copy of that agenda in the corpse score area. This seems to call out directly AstroScript. It also
Train.
well, AstroScript being the basis of the Astro Train. It also hurts things like Hostile Takeover. Basically, any deck that wants to score multiples of the same.
It's usually
agenda.
this is going to hit the 1-2s and the 2-3s really hard because those are the ones that you normally want to score out pretty quick.
It also actually hurts Medical Breakthrough pretty bad.
Yep, Medical
It
Breakthrough,
actually
too.
completely negates Medical Breakthrough.
Yep. So I think you'll actually see this played more often than you're going to see Clot. It's easier to get into play. It has a generally probably a better effect than Clot will a lot of times. So I like this a lot. I think it's well balanced. It's good they didn't put an influence cost on it.
Yes.
And a lot of currents are being played on the corpse side right now. So this is interesting because this gives you a good current to play that also has a nice lasting effect on the game too.
Yep.
So
Clearing out all those nasty enhanced login protocols.
It's gonna be like the first
housekeepings.
constant current that runners are going to be playing, because right now runners don't play them.
yeah, most of the currents don't get played that often. So.
As a runner, so
I do like to point out that I like how we're being told that in the future we all have flying cars. I want my flying car, damn it. It's a flying car traffic jam.
It is.
Symmetrical Visage, 2 costs, resource generic, genetics.
Unique.
Unique. The first time you spend a click to draw 1 card, not through a card ability, each turn gain 1 credit. It's the ghetto version of Procon.
Yeah.
So I think it's good that they're giving abilities outside of a faction to other factions. Is it better than Procon? No.
It's cheaper.
But it's cheaper, and maybe a deck wants,
I just don't know what type of deck slots this in, because if you want to see it, you slot in 3, but you really don't want 3 of them in your deck in the first place to commit to. So
Piper.
yeah, but the problem is you're still committing to that number of cards in the deck, though, is the issue. Because now you're talking 6 cards because you need 3 copies of Piper to hope you get her out before you get this into play.
Here's the thing. All of a sudden, you're turning a full-size deck, like with 3 copies of this and 3 copies of Page Piper into it. All of a sudden, you install Page Piper, get rid of the other 2. You install this, get rid of the other 2, and now you're down to running a 40-card deck.
Oh, I agree.
But
you still have to draw them. Is
you
the
do
initial
absolutely,
problem,
and you have to draw them in the right order.
And it was the problem I was finding today. Actually, it was like you want a mulligan, so you're sitting at 50 cards. You need a mulligan because you need Page early, but if you don't get her early, but then you still need to install your cards, and then you're installing them, and you're not getting the Page effect. So it's really hard. Like I almost feel like you need Hostage when you run Page, but now you're talking. Now you got 9 cards you're committing to this combo, so now you need 3 copies of Hostage, so you can go Hostage for Page, and then. So it's very interesting. Somebody will figure out the right way to do it, or we'll maybe get some better tutors for resources coming down the road. Maybe that'll help too. So, but I mean, somebody will find a way to play with this.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's certainly in if you're going to draw cards during the game, you might as well get an extra $1 for it.
Yeah,
after the 3rd card,
maybe we'll get a genetics tutor at some point in time, where it's a resource that you spend 2 credits and go search your deck for a genetics resource or something. I would
not be surprised. Yeah, I'm actually kind of surprised we didn't see that in this pack. But
I mean, you go to the shop and it triggers twice. Why want to go to the shop and just say, "Hey, I want to buy this one instead"? Yeah.
So I think the runners got very good cards in this pack.
It's a good pack.
Absolutely. Yeah. I don't think there's really a bad card amongst these, assuming that Spike gets some similar cards for the other ice types.
I just hope that we still see more genetics going through the rest of the cycle. I know we've seen 1 or 2 that have been spoiled that are coming up in future packs, but they really front-loaded it here, which they normally do.
More genetics? I know there's been more.
There's the Shine Job one or whatever it is that has the eyeball that gets genetic mod that's coming up. I don't know what it.
That's not actually a genetics.
Oh, is it not?
That is a cybernetics.
Oh,
there are a few cybernetics, which includes Brain Case and the Net Ready Eyes.
There you go.
Those come out in the next pack, which
Okay.
I'm looking forward to.
So maybe there won't be any more genetics, and they just put them all in the first pack, which they've been known to do. They introduce a new concept, they tend to front load it into the pack.
And it's one of those things that's supposed to be. This is supposed to be built around. This is what happens in the valley, which is the nice and happy the 50s version of Sansan.
And it is ran by Jinteki. If you read the little
Yeah.
pamphlet, they have the biggest location there, which is where they do the biotech research and stuff.
Well,
which
that's why,
explains the
because
genetics.
every single, not every,
Yeah.
but almost all of them have Jinteki somewhere.
Two of the four genetics say Jinteki on them.
Yep.
And then the synthetic block is against Jinteki.
Yep.
So guys, thank you for watching, and stay tuned for
The
the
corpse
corpse
side.
side. Thank you.